And we're back.
Press that pod.
Couple of detours to get back to this place, I'll tell you that much. But here we are, Cherry Street, House of Diamonds. Shout out Toronto Podcast. Shout out Graham, producer Graham, getting us back together again. Good to see you, man. More twists and turns than a cheap garden hose.
Dude, this is epic for me, at least. You know what I mean?
Nice. You didn't even know where we were going.
I didn't know what we were doing. I know you gave me a shout like, hey, we're going to do this. I'm going to book an hour. And I remember just thinking like, wait, is this for real? Like we're actually going to do it. And so, yeah, it's good to be back, man. I think it's been, I'm going to say better part of 6-7 years since we've been talking about doing this under the name of Subplots.
That is true.
Right? So, and I think you came up with the name. I mean, that's something you've always been saying.
Always in the lexicon of dialogue.
Yeah, you're always like, oh man, there's just a subplot of, there's always undertones.
Yeah, it's a better way than saying rabbit hole or down the rabbit hole, which is popular too. But yeah, subplots is a spider web of stories that comes from one conversation that just links into million different.
I've always loved that because there's always a main story, but to me the main story isn't always it. Right? It's all the tentacles, like the side story, that help shape the main story, and that to me is always the most interesting. And I think that's why when we talked about just the title, I was always like, yeah, this gives us the leeway to go anywhere, right? Because that's what subplots are, right? It's like you connect to the main story, but there's themes, there's times, there's places, there's people that come in and out of your life and all that stuff. Like, and I think it's a metaphor for life, right? Like we're all leading like our main story lives, but everything we do is a subplot and connection to something else. So
beautifully said.
Yeah.
Welcome to Subplots, by the way, but it's not the first episode of Subplots. That's coming soon. This is essentially a production meeting.
Yeah.
We're just chopping it right here, coming up with ideas, got a whole list of things we're going to go over. Got some studio time to do it so you can get to know myself. Lou, I'm Phil. This is Lou. We've worked together before. Some of you obviously in the early days will know us from the past. We last worked together 2018. It was sports related. Was it Drew Storen's Eyes? Was that the last pod?
Yeah, it was
formerly 60 feet 6 inches. So all baseball, sports related. You know, I mean, there's plenty of guys out there doing that. And I think after what happened, we were talking about it. And then through the pandemic, we know we had to strike with a newer format. So you're really going to like what we got in store.
And that's the thing. I think the whole podcast thing, it's not anything new. I don't think we're reinventing the wheel.
This is true.
Actually, we're not reinventing the wheel at all. But I think when we were doing the baseball thing, I think we like the quirky things about sports and about baseball. And I think, didn't we did a podcast in the stands
That's right.
of a Blue Jays game?
Bullpen catcher.
Yeah.
Terry Hatcher. Coming
but
up, still like, workshopping it like years later.
Yeah, so it was always like, but it's such a limited space. Like it's the whole sports thing that pisses me off now and then probably back then is how nerdy it got. It just it wasn't fun anymore. And then it was all like, oh, I've got to research somebody's friggin' VIP and BABIP and all that bullshit that I really could care less about.
Talking about stats.
Yeah, and I love stats for baseball. But it turned into something that wasn't necessarily fun. And I also I like to play baseball. So there's nuances there that I've noticed that have nothing to do with numbers.
Right.
And so it was just always kind of like, this is kind of getting a little stale and boring.
Sure.
And there's more than enough people that can talk about all the dumb made up numbers.
It's true. I was ready to concede that as well. So glad we're hatching something new. So Subplots itself is, you got your main plots, life, death, taxes. And then from there, everything will flow down to a number of different stories.
Death,
well, hey, man, those three are guaranteed, right? For the most part.
How do we get rid of taxes? That's the main thing.
Apparently, it didn't exist before the First World War. I could be wrong. They didn't.
Taxes,
but like
taxes have always. Oh, income tax.
Right, that coming in because that was the excuse to fuel the war. Right,
Robert Borden.
Not the excuse, but hey, man, we'll go down those. We'll do a finance.
Wasn't that our prime minister, Robert Borden?
He's on the $100 bill. I'll give you that.
He brought in income tax. I think I'm going to just say 1916. Fact check myself. I'll fact check myself later.
No, it's before the First World War. So it was
when
14 to 18. 14 to 18 was the first Great
World
War.
War.
Yeah.
But
it's around the financial
wait, Graham,
collapse
can you
of
fact
13?
check us?
He can't.
Because like
Is
I
he
think
on it? He is.
so.
Nice.
So I think he brought that in, and it was supposed to be temporary, like everything. It's a bull-faced lie from a politician. Shocking,
Right.
And then it never left.
Right.
They realized, oh wow, free money.
So that's the type of that's a little appetizer stuff we'll get into for sure, man. Which will be a lot of fun at that stage to really peel back the layers. So it's not going to be all, it'll be fun and games to a certain degree, but there'll be some infotainment, there'll be some knowledge, some nuggets to pick up. We'll go down some conspiracy corners as well. We'll bring on a host of guests. So the best subplot of all is the amount of crazy talented friends we have that can come on for segments. We're still working on that behind the scenes because this is still a production meeting. But we got a number of folks that'll be able to weigh in on these topics, and even some that have been doing this for a number of years.
Yeah, and I think the beautiful thing is, I'm a no-name, I'm a nobody, but I just like the fact that we're no names and nobodies, and we've lived. I think, I don't know, we're in our middle life now, like middle age at this point, where I think you start to not give a fuck as much, right?
This is true.
I was thinking about this. I'm like, how much of myself, because I do work for a big corporate entity, I'm like, how much of myself am I going to like show? How much of myself am I going to...
The best thing is we didn't even really talk about it.
You
we alluded to it, even with a friend in common we have that's willing to come on. It's like willing to lose his job and his marriage over it. Like let's take it easy.
Well, he probably
here,
wouldn't mind losing his marriage over it.
Subplots beyond belief, man.
Yeah.
Right. So, man, we first met. This is designed the website too. It's still in work with Wix, about 75% through. But our origin story goes back to the University of Western Ontario.
The Mustangs.
London. When was first year? 96.
96.
So friend in common introduced us.
I always thought we met through football.
I did not try out my first year.
So I thought you did try out. I tried out.
The last cut, right? Come on, Larry Haler. Why are you going to do Lou like that?
I was the last cut. We can definitely go down that path. That was crazy. But yeah, go on.
So it may have been Dr. Hogg, Davey Hogg introduced us. You were at Saugeen. I was at another residence. And I think somehow, did we smoke? We went out back with lecture hall or something.
Did we smoke?
Well, we did. We were ducking off to have a puff. And like all of a sudden we connected on a number of things. Football was a big one.
Yeah.
You were also 94.7. So you were involved with the radio station on campus.
Yep.
And I remember because I think you had a show where you were guesting on a show and you stopped me in my tracks because I was at home at the time, or I'd already met you at that point, but I didn't realize you had that range. You're playing a dead track, China Cat Sunflower. And I knew you were on the air. Like, I had no idea that was in your bag of tricks. So adding that to the Venn diagram, the football, the dead, the weed, you're also a Leaf fan. You knew your sport. So we were chatting on all fronts. And that was first year I showed up at a party and you were in the corner riffing on the computer, and we just started riffing. And from what I remember, we were laughing harder than anybody. Yeah. Just party stuff, right? And I'm like, oh, this guy. And next thing I know, we were just hatching plans for a show.
Yep.
Which would have happened, I guess, second year. And then famously, you got kicked off the air in the first ep.
Yeah. And no, it wasn't the first ep.
It was the first ep.
Was
that
it?
we finally got ourselves together.
No, but when we got together.
We have Josh with us on the air too?
When we got together.
Yeah.
But I was on the radio for like a good year.
For sure.
Before that. And I'd love to hear that episode back.
Yeah, I was thinking about it this morning. I want to go back.
I know
to
exactly
the
what I said. I know, but I don't know in this day and age with the canceling. But here's the thing about this pod is I'm all about truth and free will and you know, you go as far as you want, and then the consequences will happen then, and you know. So I'm cool with it. So I think like what's gonna make this pod successful is about as open as we can be
For sure.
with things. Like I'm sitting here and I'm thinking like, man, the thing that I did say to get kicked off, I was probably the first canceling. If you think about it,
The original
the original
canceling.
1997,
Right?
But yeah, look, I don't need to even go down the road of what I said. Maybe
We're here
it'll come.
now.
Maybe it'll come out in talking and stuff like that. But
Let me promise listeners I will look for that. If we can find that clip for down the road,
it was.
find that show.
I was in such a shitty mood, dude. Early morning.
I was actually sarcastically trying to cover for what you said, and then the meeting with Tom after,
Yeah.
he actually, well, at least you said it doesn't reflect the views of 94.7 or something. I was doing it sarcastically, and he thought I was covering myself, so I got to stay on the air
Yeah, you did.
somehow.
No, but that's a thing. Like, as soon as I said it, I was like, "Yo, that's so fucking dumb." But it's out. It's in the ether. And honestly, I think I did apologize and all that stuff. And I remember when Tom was like, "Hey, you know, we're gonna have to kick you off." I didn't give
Bowed
him.
out gracefully.
Yeah, I was like, "Hey, that makes sense."
Hey man, if you do corporate radio nowadays, man, they might court martial you for saying asshole. That's actually a word. That's a
real?
bad word. Yeah, I dabbled in a little bit of corporate radio work, and I was like, really? You get in a lot of trouble. There goes your livelihood. Maybe not for just. I mean,
So-
you maybe get one get out of jail free, but
You
you
did,
can't speak your mind, can you?
yeah.
Which
you
leads
can.
us here.
Which is but you then did your own show for a bit.
Yeah, that was my indoctrination to hip hop. Like I knew, back in the day, was a young skater, 86, raising hell. Like some kid had it down the street, so I was aware of hip hop to a certain degree. And I, at the time, only liked Tribe from seeing them at Lollapalooza. But I got on with Marco. I was his co-host initially on Fat Fridays. So he was a guy that was heavy into his hip hop, like the book of CDs that he have. So I would just like say quirky stuff on the air. I knew a few things, but I would go through and through osmosis and listening to it, I went deeper into the text of it all. And then like next thing I know, I'm holding conversations, finding stuff that I like, and then got my own show, which was 31 Flavors. And I think I was a solo host. I had the morning, like it was either 7 to 9 or 9 to 11. And then brought in Jeff Little at one point. Even had a variety of guests. My buddy Sean.
The name of my
Dad came on at one point with a Spanish intro.
What was the name of- my show was called
boy
the
Neil
Champion.
was on there?
The Champion Bubbler Show,
Right, yeah.
and it would. I think I'd mimic like I was taking a big bowl.
Right, to kick things off.
Yeah, look, dude, fucking
Okay,
19
sure.
years old. I smoked so much weed, so it made sense.
Right.
So that was the champion, and then you had 31 Flavors, Champion Bubbler Show, and then fast forward, the next time I had a radio show was in Vancouver, and it was called No Apologies Necessary,
Amazing.
and that was with a friend called Tamim Bearcat, who's now in New Zealand.
Okay.
He left. He's one of those guys. He's half Jewish, half Arab.
Okay.
So he's basically the Gaza Strip. And so he brought me in, and then it became my show after.
Well, sorry, this was in New Zealand.
No, in Vancouver. But
my
he's
bad.
moved
Right.
to New Zealand at this point. But he's a guy that definitely we can get some hot, spicy takes on stuff.
Was that the dude that had the tip on the mine that I overinvested
Yeah,
in?
yeah. The Northern
Dynasties? The one in Alaska?
I mean, I bought
that was
into
a subplot.
Yeah, that's a subplot. But then there's still more. Actually, we should actually bring him in and we can talk about Northern Dynasty Minerals, which is going through some stuff with Joe Biden,
Right.
and that whole thing. Like they're
Trump
holding
tweeted
up.
about it too.
Yeah, and-
during the last election, talking about gambling.
So we
That
kind
was
of
something.
need Trump to get back in there to like break that mine open.
I hold next to none of it. I sold.
You
so
sold
much
it
at a
all? I sold
loss.
it all too. He's still holding on. I think he bought, I don't know the number, but it's definitely in the tens of thousands
Okay.
of dollars, and he's holding steadfast, and it might be worth freaking nothing, but he still thinks. something's gonna break. But he's also one of those guys that's like got eternal patience for stuff like that.
Right, which you have to have in investing.
Yeah.
Right, and I was new to it, and emotionally, the Army Corps of Engineers like rejected whatever was happening. Like, this is going to be, this is going to be absolutely detrimental to the area, like the environmentally. And at that point, the stock had plummeted. And I just panicked, like knee-jerk reaction. Someone in the chat, it could be going to zero, like a classic. Really? Sell.
What do you call it? You call it the rigged casino?
Well, a lot of rigged casinos out there. We can get into that too, but that'll be a segment for sure. But back to the radio show. So I didn't listen to any of that work. That was you and him doing it from Vancouver.
From Vancouver. It was a eclectic show, same thing. Lots of music, breaking new artists and all that stuff. And then
predominantly hip hop or what?
No, just anything.
You were putting on a lot of shows back then too.
Yeah, so I was also a promoter in Vancouver, so it was actually a good little side thing to help promote shows. But I didn't really use it like that. I think I used it as just a way to like get away and just like play some new music that because I got handed a lot of music from artists and stuff like that. So it was always nice for them to like hear themselves on the radio, and I was just kind of a conduit. So I wouldn't really say that it was fun for me. You know what I mean? Like, I got to be on the radio, we got to interview people, we got to bring on people. Yeah, sure, we use it as a promotional vehicle for shows.
What platform were you guys on? Was it like a campus?
It's a I guess it would be called Campus. I'd have to remember
way
what
back
they call
no worries.
Letters and stuff like that, but it's still going on. So we ended up, like, Tamim left, and then I took it on for a while, and then we brought in this kid who was like kind of our intern, and then at some point I graduated out of it, and I think he still has the show, and we're looking at maybe it's 20 years.
Going away.
And a great name too, right? No Apologies Necessary is a incredible name.
So it's still running under that name?
Yeah.
Sweet.
As far as I know, like,
right.
I got like an email about it last year. So,
okay.
The kid hit me up about some sort of, hey, reunion party, which I didn't go to or whatever. but yeah. I mean, I wouldn't call them, like, I think radio and stuff like that is just dabbling a lot of the times, right? I find it fun to just have an outlet, being somewhat creative, like being behind the camera and stuff like that. I'm not used to, this isn't my domain of standing in, because like even the radio,
tell, man, you're natural, you're comfortable with it.
But even the radio is behind the scenes. You know what I mean? You only hear your voice.
We were doing that before the pod. So this is, a lot of people are doing this now, right?
Yeah.
Where you are filming it. But I thought for the initial one, we should at least get our faces out there. So whether we do, we'll get to that, right? Because you're actually based out of Vancouver, in town. Happy birthday, by the way, last week.
Appreciate
visiting Mama.
Yeah, I was just at my mom's.
So you're usually not in Toronto, is the long and short of it. So to get us both in the same space was key to at least throw it out there. And then moving forward, we're going to talk to Graham about some production ideas and how we're going to work that with our guests, probably doing everything, online and whatnot with the filming.
And I think, like, speaking about what this is, I think multimedia, like, there's so much there in terms of, like, the world is full of content, so splicing some of this stuff with B-roll, some of the stuff that we're talking about off the cuff,
which we'll get to.
I'm sure I could just check my phone for it, but it's nice to, like, maybe go back and then add a little bit more to it, like in terms of B-roll, and maybe we splice some stuff in there, and just really, really make it a rich pastiche.
Ooh.
Right?
A tempanade of
Graham,
sorts.
you want to check if that's a word?
Let's go to the notes.
Let's go to the notes.
I love it.
But that's the thing. Like, I think we have the opportunity, especially with what I do for a living, to be able to, like, take a lot of the learnings that I've had, because, like, now I'm an ad man, right? So I get to make things in, like, really small, bite-sized
Sure.
pieces where you've got to, like, be able to engage the client, the viewer, the whoever pretty quickly and have that message out there pretty fast in 6 seconds or 15 seconds or 30. And we rarely even do 30-second
it's a lifetime.
Commercials, right?
Who's got an attention span of 30 seconds nowadays?
But it's all, to me, it's all about story, right? It doesn't matter how long it is. I've always been fascinated by commercials.
Okay.
For that reason, because I'm always like, damn, how did you just take me on a journey in 25 seconds?
True.
You know, and I find that fascinating. So I think using those skills to do little things with this in terms of, you know, more pop culture, but then also educate people about certain things. You know,
sure.
We might actually, we're not going to be right all the time. I'd like to think that I would be, but there's a bunch of shit that I want to talk about.
I can't wait.
You touched upon some conspiracy stuff.
I can play the straight man too on a few of those.
Which I don't necessarily think most things are
Open
conspiracy theories, as
true.
they say. There's a lot of truth to certain things that we're not allowed to talk about.
No.
We're not allowed to go down the rabbit hole.
It's a blessing even having a platform, and you know, it's not a matter of waking everyone up, but at least waking people up to the fact that they're at least informed to a certain degree, right? Because what's happening with the MSM is unreal. I mean, especially with the upcoming American elections coming. If you're just tuning in, it's what, August 2024. I was riffing in one of our channels with some of the other cats there about CNN. Like I tuned in briefly, and the teardown on Trump was something else.
Yeah.
Now we don't have to get that divisive right off the bat, but it's clear that they're promoting one of the two candidates. And a lot of us, not a lot of us, but some of us will just be parroting what they hear from that one news source. And that's their point of perspective. And now we're getting even more divisive over sound bites that someone else has put in their head without actually looking into the facts.
And also, what is real at this point? You know what I mean? Because history just is being rewritten second to second, minute to minute, right? So it's hard to even know that soundbite, is that soundbite real that I heard? Like you said, you know what I mean? Like,
well, AI is getting out of
like you've got the whole AI thing.
Like Trump even does a few of them now. I'm like, is that actually him? Like, what do we?
No, it's true, right? So it's really hard to tell. And I always wonder, I'm like, has it always just been like this? And there was only a few outlets and channels. So, you know what I mean?
There was a point where you're given the illusion of more options. And I remember studying a bit of that as slowly everything gets bought up, and it's probably, you know.
But now there's so many options.
The guys have a lot of options. So we're talking about for news?
For news.
Well, I mean, outside of MSM, you got a few. But yeah, as you branch out now, there's all kinds
There was only MSM
right
before, right? So that was the truth.
True.
So you took it at face value. So were they always doing this bullshit? Were they always promoting one person over another? Or are we just noticing it now?
I think it's a bit of both,
so
for sure.
I find it quite interesting that they're still getting away with it. It's like, that's what's killing me. It's like, how's nobody seeing this?
That's it, man. 137 deodorant choices, and then what? Red and blue down the states?
Red and blue down
Two
the
choices.
States. That's it. You know,
we've come to this point, right?
I can get my steak done in a million ways.
Yeah.
But no, I can only pick these two candidates who are the, you know.
Just one or the other. And
they're
the sides are so divided. And we're dividing ourselves in so many things. And even recently, I mean, we can go down that subplot, right, of the division on the vaccine, which is half the reason that led us here, right? We both lost jobs over it. Like like you went through hell and back with that. I mean, that was...
Which I didn't even... Okay, so this is how naive I was at the beginning. I was like, there's no way the government is going to do this. No, I swear to God. I was like, and I'm a person that like questions pretty much a lot of things, right? But I was like, there's no way we have a constitution. There's no way they're going to use the constitution to screw over people out of jobs and blah, blah, blah. So as it's happening and you're watching it, and it was just like a slow motion, like plane wreck, you're watching it go and you're like, oh shit, I'm in that plane. It's going to crash. And and I was just still adamant that there's no way that they're going to do this until, you know, you get the email about like, hey, we need you to send in your vaccine status and do that, all sorts of stuff. And I was just like, this can't be real.
Right.
You know, getting that email and also working for the government at the time, you're just like, I was just like, there's got to be a provision in here that allows me to like get out of it.
Right.
But if anything, it was like more of the tightening of the screws.
The moving of the goalposts.
And it was
El Clasico.
Dude, it was hell on earth for sure. Especially like, you know, I've got a fiance at the time. Now we're married, which is great. And
but she wasn't as understanding at the beginning, correct? Or
well, no, look, she did her thing, and she works in a sector that she figured she needed to do that, right?
For sure.
But I don't know that she was mostly like, why, what are you doing? I don't get it, but it sounds dumb, but okay, do your thing.
Mm-hmm.
So she was way more understanding than I gave her credit for. I was more angry, so I couldn't see her understanding, you know what I mean? And I think now that I've stepped back from it, I realize there's a whole bunch of things and ways that I dealt with it that I would do differently. But I think what it was is the anger of like knowing people and knowing that we were all kind of counterculturalists, seeing everybody just go with the fucking flow. Right. And you're just like, yo, what? You're believing half this shit? I thought we were different or on a different vibe. But then you also, you know, with more time, you realize like people did what they did for a variety of reasons. My only thing was you do not own anyone's body or soul or anything. So that to me is like step off, you know? Allow me to be me. I'll allow you to be you. And we'll meet somewhere in the middle.
Well said.
But that never happened. So, man, even talking about it right now, I'm just like, ooh.
Me too, man. We can switch it up real quick because we were talking about EP1. So this is us in a production meeting, although it's quite an
but you also,
meeting.
Dude, let's not talk about my thing. Let's talk about you also went through it too, right? Like remember, okay, so the news comes down, hey, you're going to need a vaccine and a mandate and all that stuff. And we're like, shit, we've got this window to go to Costa Rica before we needed to like have a passport, a vaccine passport.
A vaccine passport.
A vaccine passport. How fucking, oh man. Like, how crazy is that?
And the number of people, too, when we were skipping town and were trying to tell me that I couldn't do it or tell me that, oh, you can't do this, you can't do that. It's like, all of a sudden, like, family members as well.
Yeah.
Like, what are you talking about?
Yeah,
you're putting all these preventative measures.
Yeah.
This is insane right now.
You escaped.
I thought it was reaching a point where they were going to ask for papers when you're trying to go to the grocery store. And that's when I'm like, let's just let this simmer down. I'll stay on the sidelines in Costa Rica. And then once we return this rigged casino to its normal perceived state,
I'll
come back and participate in this game of life that we've created.
It was all over the place, but I remember like we went down to Costa, a bunch of us, and we left you down there. It was like
that was a scary first day.
Yeah, dude. It was just like
I went to try to extend my visa,
and I was always like, Phil,
next in no Spanish.
Phil, do not
Rengo
come
no
back.
comprendo?
Do not come back.
Dios mío.
You know what I mean?
Yeah,
like I had to go back. I have a fiance, but I would have been with you obviously if I was a single man at the time. But I remember just thinking like, fuck, I should have left like early to get away from all that garbage. But at the same time, it's like you don't know what you don't know, right?
That was the best though. Like nobody asking for anything. Bought a motorcycle, rode it up in the hills. Like just that feeling of freedom alone, I still carry with me. Like having that and not feeling that, just knowing what was happening back home. And still seeing the news and everything, and you're just like,
remember,
just strolling into a beachside bar to get a beer. That alone, right, was worth it. Regardless of what happened and the consequences of it, it actually was worth it.
I was dreaming of you nightly. But I remember I sent you your work laptop. It cost $322. I kept the receipt still because I think it's so epic how much it costs to send you a laptop to the middle of nowhere.
How many city boys does it take to send a laptop?
You know what I mean, dude? That shit was so funny.
Oh my goodness!
And we're trying to like circumvent.
And then they were extorting me. They were holding it in San Jose and extorting me for more money. It's
yeah,
like, what
it's
is
like
this?
6 hours away.
Oh, it's not UPS. You just put the sticker up in some store or wherever. Like, oh, that's the hustle.
You're trying to work.
There's
remotely.
no affiliation whatsoever. Then you're down some rabbit holes. Then you're down some.
Oh my god, that shit was so funny, dude. Like
ridiculous.
Trying to send you a laptop so you can continue to work and subvert the system. Oh man! But I also like our escape from Canada in.
Right, they were closing it, like Indy Jones getting his hat in the original one, right? Just getting out before it closed. Oh, you can't do that.
But what about the one where it was July or June or July 2022 when they were about to lift the mandates and shit like that? So me and another friend, Hinchy, who we'll talk about, we had a friend from France drive us to the border to Seattle, and it was like, I think it was like maybe 2 weeks before, because we thought they were gonna like change it overnight, right? Because there was talks of it, and we're like, fuck it, we gotta get to Costa, man. Like, we gotta get out of here. And we got driven to the border. The subplot of Subplots, I'll just tell this story, is that I had a bunch of mushrooms with me. So before the border, I'm like, fuck, this is kind of dumb. I've got.
Was that wrong to do that? Because had I known.
So we get to the border. I'm like, hey, let's pull over here and go into the store before we get to the border. And it's just me going, all right, I need to put these mushrooms in a bag of some sort.
Were these capsules or just actual?
Just regular mushrooms.
Yeah.
And because I was like, okay, it's organic, it's food. And then I remember I looked at like what is it, Jack Link's, the
beef jerky?
The beef jerky. I was like, okay, get a big bag of beef jerky. But then I'm like, no, it's not going to look the same. It's just going to, because the beef jerky is brown.
Were you high at the time when you were working this out?
Huh?
Were you high at the time when you
I
were
was
working
not,
this out?
not yet. So I'm like working it out. I'm like, okay, bag of chips. And then I fell on to the Cool Ranch was the perfect bag of chips because Cool Ranch has like all the dust and it smells
chemical cocktail
pretty strong,
deliciousness,
and it tastes pretty good. And I was like, all right, this is it. So I took all the mushrooms, I dumped them into the big bag of Cool Ranch. I crunched them up, right? Because I figured, I was like, okay, it's just gonna look like chips.
Wait, hold on.
What?
You crushed up the mushrooms with the Cool Ranch chips
inside the bag,
and just and
then just
snacked on it during your vacation. Once you got through,
snacked on it. Dude, I was fucking blasted. So so there's still another 40 minutes to the border. So I'm just like, I'm in the front just crinkling it up. And Hinchy's in the back going,
as you do, doing a little crinkle.
Yeah, and we've got our French buddy driving me, and they're like, "What are you doing?" I'm like, I don't know. I like the dust. I'd made up some dumb excuse.
Oh, because you wouldn't tell the driver, like he had no idea you had
no,
contraband,
I'm not going
right?
to tell him, right? Like,
just crinkle.
I'm not putting him. Yeah, I'm not going to put him in any situation.
Don't worry about it. Just keep driving.
I mean, also not telling Hinchy, because it's also like
many levels of deception.
Midnight. We're going through.
Oh, the midnight run.
We go through. The guy stops us. I've got the bag full of mushrooms right there. And, it's a quick little interaction. Nothing big. We get through. Now we're just like, yeah, freedom. Fucking cracking beers because we bought a couple. He brought a couple.
So you crossed
beers.
Like at the Seattle border?
At the Bellingham border.
They didn't ask anything.
Asked nothing, and it was
I had to do that to get your wedding. I had my dad drive me. Shout out to the old man. He wasn't going to drive me because he knew I was on vax. I turned to him. I go, Dad, I thought you was a gangster, and that worked on him. He was like, "What do you mean?" I called him out. Drove me down to Buffalo. It was great.
See, that's the same thing. Like we thought they were gonna. We were just hoping they wouldn't ask us for a vax card and everything because you still needed that shit to get over, and the guy didn't even give a shit. And boom, we're over. Right?
That was not a rigged casino, but an actual travel casino, right? Mm-hmm. Because remember Billy's brother Ev? Did he not, around the same time in the chat, someone got stopped at a border over by the Ottawa way trying to get through.
Evan, yep, he got
they
stopped.
Asked, and they're like, no.
Mm-hmm. So we get over. Now I've got this bag full of mushrooms.
In the Cool Ranch.
Cool Ranch. And I start snacking on it, right? Just kind of on the sly snacking on it. But we've got like 6 hours wait before we get to board the plane.
Okay.
So I'm snacking on them, not really thinking too much about how this is going to play out until it's time
Which
to
is
like
a wild strategy.
right? Until it's like
Until it was the time.
15 grams of mushrooms in a fucking bag.
Until you had been chosen.
Right? Until it's time to like, now it's like you got to put your shit through. Boom, boom.
Right.
Dude, let me tell you this.
Please
Okay,
do.
so I've got the knapsack. They're like, okay, if you've got any food in your backpack, take it out, put it on the side. And so I do that, got the bag of Doritos. I'm like, okay, got my bag. And then you know when it goes down and it stops on the conveyor and it either goes to them or it comes to you? Yeah. I'm just staring at it. Like, you motherfucker, do not go.
Time. You're high at this point.
Bro, I didn't realize how high I was because we'd been up all night anyway, right? So I'm just like,
so the bag of Doritos is going through.
Dude, it stops there.
The customs check.
And then
in the
goes
machine, right?
To their side. And I'm like, fuck. Is this how it ends? This is how it ends. And it goes to the guy. He's like, this your bag?
This your bag of Cool Ranch Doritos?
I'm like, yep. And then so he does the thing with the tray. And he turns it towards I guess there's a camera or infrared or whatever.
Sure.
And I'm standing there like this, staring at him like that.
Yeah.
And I'm like trying to look over to see what the fuck he's seeing. I'm sitting, but now I'm just like, this is what a way to go out.
Right?
I'm going to be in a fucking U.S. jail.
Should have gone with
mushrooms.
the Jack Link's beef
He's like,
jerky.
oh, these your bag of chips? And I'm like, yep.
They might be.
Bro, I thought he was going to open up
Do you want some?
the bag of chips.
Delicious Cool Ranch.
I thought he was going to open it up. And I'm sweating. Like, just...
Never a good look for the border guards.
I'm just
true.
Obviously trying to stay cool.
Yeah.
I look over.
The Cool Ranch,
I look over.
Sure.
Hinchy is... he's getting patted down. They're taking his drums, like they're taking stuff out of his drums and all that stuff. And I'm just like
the djembe or whatnot.
Yeah, the djembe that he's got.
The full drum kit.
And he doesn't look great. And so the guy finally goes,
also high?
Well, hold on.
Okay, I'm sorry.
Let me finish this. It gets very, very funny at the
I got
end.
a stitch already.
He goes, then the guy goes, okay, man, that's all good. You're good to go. And I'm like, oh shit. Awesome. Get on the plane. Hinchy packs up all his stuff, and I think we have a stopover in, I'm going to just say Chicago or San Fran, one of the two.
Okay.
And we're just sitting there, and I'm like, fuck, yo, you're definitely high. This is a good time to tell Hinchy. So I go, hey, Hinch, grab that bag, grab that Doritos bag. You want some chips? He's like, yeah, sure. He puts his hand in and pulls out the biggest cap. And he just looks at me, and I'm like, yo, dude, put it back. He looks at me, he's like, oh, shit, that's what you were doing with the Doritos.
You just made a detective.
And then he goes, hey, go into my djembe. He pulls out fucking 3 vials of like mushroom pills.
Right.
And he goes, you know, when I was getting patted down, he goes, I fucking shit my pants so hard because he thought, I'm like, and then I told him what was happening with me.
A couple of dueling mushroom smugglers here.
Dude,
Did you leaning in to see what was being seen?
It was so funny. He's like, I thought something was off with you.
Are these your chips?
Oh, man. Anyway, that was a funny story of like
that's a good one.
Smuggling mushrooms to Costa Rica. But then it's all worth it once you get away with it, right? Because like now I found a cowboy hat. I wore the cowboy hat. I was a fucking cowboy riding through. You know what I mean? So anyway, that was one of those stories. I can't wait to animate this one.
Thank you for sharing. That was great. My little tidbit on this is for cross, not the border, but when you're at the airport, what is it? TSA they call it or whatnot?
Yeah.
Right? That machine you step into when you put your hands up, is it because of the shoe bomber we're still taking our shoes off? It's 2024.
so.
Where the fuck is the technology to look for whatever I've got in my shoes? You need me to take my shoes off?
I don't know what
without
that
having
thing.
to get.
I don't know what that thing is. I do think.
But shouldn't it be able to read
But
with your shoes?
no,
and
but
see
you're
if you've
allowed
got-
to. You're allowed to decline it. I decline it a lot.
decline going into that.
Yeah, because they'll just do a pat down.
What kind of
You don't-
airport's that?
Every airport, you
What?
don't have to go through that hand whatever the fuck radioactive shit that they're doing. I don't know.
Huh. Well,
You-
I'd like
you
to if I can keep my shoes on. Don't make me take my shoes off.
In the States,
Yeah.
if you're going through the States, I think you always have to take your shoes off. I think that's just
Those machines should read what's in your shoes, shouldn't they?
dude. The whole, you know what? Like, we know that the whole thing is just pure control, but
Hey.
you're allowed to decline it, but it sometimes it makes you feel like way more suspicious than you really are, you know? So
I've had so much confiscated too. You don't know, like even darts. I bought a nice pair of darts once. Like,
What's
yeah,
up
had
with the
carry-on,
liquid?
that was done, right?
why is 100 mil the limit?
That's a subplot.
Right?
And we should get back on track here. That was a great
Okay,
story.
sorry. Anyway.
Nuggets of conversations that lead to another conversation is like the epicenter of subplots. So having the guest on, we'll have guests coming up. We were thinking of starting with life as the first one, right? Mm-hmm. We're leaning Tony as our first guest. Very
Antoine.
entertaining cat, and wife's not doing too well. Tony, we wish her well.
Yeah.
For sure. How old's the child now? Like 4 or 5? But
Yeah, they're in Russia.
when I first met him, he had incredible takes on vaccines that we give to children. We're not talking COVID-19 at this point. So this is not even a conspiracy. This is actually a fact with the numbers, what's happening from autism all the way through to all these strange diseases children are getting, maybe more so in North America. Like, as I said, I talked to this cat the other day from Cameroon. He's like, what? Nobody has they're not allergic to peanut butter, not allergic to bee stings. And you're like, what are you talking about here? And you start going down that rabbit hole.
Yeah.
Disguised as a subplot, disguised as a rabbit hole. And it gets real strange. Like, wait a minute. Why are we off the bat after this joyful moment of the child being born, the umbilical cord cut or not,
or not.
or not, it just stays on.
You can request to keep
Did you
the
request?
umbilical.
'Cause that-
Let it fall off, Doc.
right? Let it fall off naturally. I'm just gonna stay attached to this breast a little while longer. The all of a sudden is somebody working on some sort of a sales incentive to get these vaccines in there. Like the number of vaccines now are insane. And if you do the math on what actually works, what doesn't, like how often are these diseases coming up? And the biggest parroting point you'll hear from people, oh, well, you won't be able to put your child in school. Is that a fact? It might be, but there's got to be a loophole
But
on that if you
also-
don't want to get your child vaccinated.
Okay, fine. They don't go to your
Well, I
shitty
guess he's
school.
homeschooled now.
But
hope
here's
hope he likes Cool Ranch
I don't-
Doritos.
You know what though? It'll be nice to get a bunch of people on here that can talk on both sides about
Yes.
all this stuff, right? Because
For sure.
this is definitely something I'm gonna go through with my wife.
Congrats on the sex, by the way.
Hey,
Is that how you threw your back out? You took too long to get in the car there.
dude, that's not why I threw my back out, but we'll go with that.
All right.
The sex.
Trying to make a baby.
No, it's man, that's a whole other subplot.
Have you even brought that up with your wife yet?
Yeah.
Okay.
I've brought it up. Of course, the first time I brought it up, I'm like, hey, I don't know that we need to like pump the kid full of whatever juice right away, And she was like, obviously against that. And then you just start talking, right? I'm just like, listen, I'm down with, medical stuff and, there's a lot of good advancements, but I'm just like, is it cool that we can just bring the child home and just have it just be a pure human without,
Without
invading
the pharmaceutical tags right off the bat.
right away? And then then we can just start to see what, because like I know a few kids.
Those are the sound effects
that
of the
have,
vaccines going in.
Ah!
In the incubator?
Yeah.
You're there.
But
You're there
the
guarding
thing
the
is,
baby.
It's a whole thing, but once you start talking about it, like it's like a bridge too far for people. Like you're this insane person to like not want to go down that road.
We just
all
hit
the
it
way.
right there. That's it. Right?
It's like, hey,
That would be Epi 1. We have to talk about it. It's a pertinent subplot.
Do we need to throw 80 of them into the kid
Is it
before
80
they're
or
6?
30 somewhere?
I don't fucking know,
Something
dude. It's a
wild.
number.
The autism numbers are now like 1 in 30, aren't they?
But
that's
I don't,
significant.
But I also don't know enough about any of that stuff to talk about it.
Right, and who's doctoring stats?
You know what I mean? I have zero clue.
That's why we need to get, well, so Tony did. Like, the discussion was incredible. He researched it inside out. He was concluding that the only vaccine that worked was the shingles one. Like, that's where what he landed on. But I'll let him talk for himself, right? Either way, it won't be do your own research, but we'll try and help you and guide you on
honestly,
what we know. But it's a discussion worth having.
I think
because
all
after
of
the
that
moment,
stuff is
the miracle of childbirth, all of a sudden, Big Pharma's just hopping into the arena with this, right? Something everybody's doing. What do you mean? You're probably so happy. I mean, none of us have,
they take it away and they just start jabbing
exactly.
it
You're
full
like,
of shit.
from this moment of like pure bliss to like, wait a minute, now you're making this insane decision.
Yeah.
Like, who's there? Like Nurse Ratched at the silhouette, the door, coming in with
the problem I have is that
needles.
everything is instantly based on fear right away. Like, you don't have a moment for
the minute that umbilical cord's cut.
Yeah, this purity of just happiness. It's
Right.
like, oh, if you don't do it, they're gonna fucking get all these different diseases. You're like, really?
We took the stats on these diseases.
Are they?
There's,
you know what I mean? Like, they're like literally 30 minutes old. They're not gonna fucking, Anyway, so the other thing I wanted to do with this, we talked about doing streeters.
Yes.
If people don't know what streeters are, just going out on the street, talking to people. And part of the little wrinkle that I have, and I think I threw it at you, is having a wheel with a bunch of different subjects. People can spin the wheel, and whatever it lands on, there's either a question that can be asked, or we can ask them their opinions on stuff. And I think that could be entertaining. We got to workshop it and see how that goes. These
are the ideas for the production meeting for sure. That, or even with the guest.
Or with the guests as well. Like,
we talked about even surprising you with you not knowing who the guest is, but that may be on the cutting room floor at this point. Maybe down the road there could be a surprise guest, a mystery guest. So we have Tony on, and whatever nugget comes from that conversation would flow to our next guest. So that's a subplot. So essentially at the end, well, not the end, like maybe 80, 90, who knows what we're living to at this point. It's like McConaughey in True Detective, where you got the detective wall. He's looking for the Yellow King, right?
Yeah.
If you haven't seen that, you should probably check it out. But either way, reference being one of those boards they have where the detective has all the strings. So all from this production meeting to that first episode, everything will flow from one subplot to the next from that, touching on the main of life and death. And we'll throw taxes in there too, because it's a subplot.
Everything's connected.
Everything flowing from that.
Yeah.
And who knows where we're going to end up. In Venezuela, talking with people about finances. Because we want to go on the road. 2 ideas I had that I was going to pitch you on right now. We should go to Haiti at some point.
Jeez.
Well, I mean, that's a wild one. Who's doing that, right? I was trying to surprise you with barbecue as the first guest. Imagine if he showed up right now. Who's playing his music?
The Haitian warlord? Warlord?
What a surprise guest that would have been.
That would be surprised you're dead.
I mean, hey,
he chops your head off.
It's possible.
But
hey, it would have made for
honestly,
great content.
I was born in Haiti. I came here when I was 5. I think I went back the next year because my dad's mom, died. So that's the last time I've been down there. I had an opportunity to go there maybe about a decade ago with a production company agency that I was working with, Point Blank. But I didn't feel comfortable. Like, going down there felt too exploitative in my mind, because I felt like, a lot of people go to these third world countries and it's all like this woe is me shit. And I was just like, fuck, it's a rich country. Yeah, it's shitty, but there's so much more to it. And I didn't want to go down there and just be like, show me all the shitty parts and then here's how we're going to help you, but not really help you type shit, which a lot of that stuff, happens a lot to these places. And because I was from there, I think I felt a little like uncomfortable doing that, but I'd love to go down there, to go and check out family. And I think my dad's down there. I haven't seen that guy.
That's the subplot.
Imagine rolling up on dad.
Subplots epi
what's up?
037.
What's up, dog?
What's up, Pops? Been a minute.
Been 30 years. Oh, you got another family. Okay.
So that's an idea.
Apparently,
I was on set yesterday, and it's funny how conspiracies are now coming to everyday light. I'm at this table We're filming, it was 2 days ago, sorry, filming this detective show, just doing background work. And he's in between takes, they're talking at the table, this girl, these two guys, and then we're chatting about Epstein, which is brought up. Oh, what's happening with that, right? The other one, El Clasico. Another one is Antarctica, which I have vested interest in, right? That would be the ultimate road trip down the road. So working towards that, I brought it up with someone. Like, it's the only thing that we can all agree on in this world. Like, what kind of classified documents have been shown?
The Antarctic Treaty?
Whatever that is, that every country's like, you know what? We can't decide between red and blue. But that area, no civilians are going.
Isn't that funny that, like you said, all of these countries that are always at war can agree on the Antarctic Treaty?
What's the deal with that? That's one of the biggest subplots.
There's limits to what you can do and see.
I was alluding to us taking a boat with a Sherpa, whatever, going through there. They'll shoot you down, bro. They'll shoot you down. They might.
Will.
Will they?
Yeah.
It's patrolled 24/7.
You can only go see a very small portion of what is known as Antarctica.
Well, we've revealed too much of our hand at this point, but that's in the works.
It's not in the works. It's in the works.
No, I'm going to talk about year one.
Okay, all right.
This
cool.
is like,
that's something that I'd love to do.
Something in your early 60s.
But you will get shot down. They definitely have military jets and stuff like that they will.
Even if I have a Richard Nixon mask on?
That would be funny.
That'd be a bit.
Tricky dick.
Right?
But I think
water skiing?
I find hey, any viewer, go ahead, research the Antarctic Treaty. I think it's 1956. Graham, can you check that for us? He's like, I'm on it.
Is it 56?
I think it's 1956.
But that now we're talking subplots. So these are also discussions that you have at 337 in the kitchen, at those parties, discussions you're having behind the lecture hall when maybe you're puffing, maybe you're not. Discussions you're having in the pub that are great to have that all of a sudden you either forget or you don't research any further.
I think it's discussions that we used to have openly that now we can't really have.
True.
Right? Now people think, oh, why are you talking about that? You must be alt-right extremist. You must be a lefty.
Sure.
You know, it's like, dude, I'm just fucking
I didn't bring the one prop
history,
of the magnifying glass, right?
Graham, what is it? No? 59.
Look
Close.
at you. What'd you say?
56.
That's not bad.
1959, not bad.
Yeah, that's about 1,200 days or so. That's good, man.
Not bad.
That's not bad at all.
1,200 days.
Not bad. We're way off script as usual, but yeah, but I mean, that was exactly it.
I'm looking at the time.
We're flowing through time, man.
The heck
We're flowing
did that
through
happen?
it. What do I have here, man? So some of the guests, reoccurring segments that we want to bring in. We got Conspiracy Bill. So he'll be in.
Billy, are we allowed to say his name?
Billy Slade will be in at
Slade,
points.
yeah.
Although he's already done his hip hop career and avoided HR in insurance. Dude. Which is the funniest subplot of all time. He's doing.
Check out Billy Slade, rap aficionado.
Unless you're in HR and in insurance, don't check that out. But those sex rhymes would probably not play well.
We want Antoine Peltier.
Tony's petting zoo.
Yep.
I got a funny finance guy, T Money, who you'll meet.
Okay.
Conspiracy guy that introduced me to Dan Dix, Press for Truth. We're going to hopefully get Dan at some point. And down the road, the white whale himself. Alex Jones would be a great guest at some stage. But I think he's had Dan on his show and vice versa. But we got to get a lot more reps in before that happens. But that would be something.
Our other friend, Kurt Scott
with his raw milk with Kurt Scott. His nutritional tips.
What was he saying? I guess he only eats meat. Is that his thing?
Meat and cheese and maybe eggs.
And raw milk.
Not a fan of vegetables. What about fruit?
No, yeah, he was saying something.
But the raw milk one is intriguing. Like you can't find raw milk.
So he gets it from the pet store?
I'm out. Breast milk as well is a tasty one. I mean, that's the business idea. This guy's a business idea. We have like the mobile breast milk van that shows up at your house.
The raw milk thing, that's another subplot about why we can't have raw milk. But it's like dense in nutrients, right? Like that sort of
stuff. Seems like the greatest thing you should be having. No,
right?
No,
you know what? You should have this pasteurized shit that we pump full of fucking hormones.
Milk. That's a subplot.
And then, you can have that. But here's the thing. When we talk about all of like vaccines and stuff like that, I'm like, okay, that's one thing. But the other thing that I'm very intrigued by is the poison that's in all the food.
Oh.
That's just allowed to proliferate our lives. And then people are just like, used to cancer like it's a natural phenomenon. It's
right?
like
Study other parts of the world where they're not
they're
getting
not getting it, and it's just like now it's just like it's a cottage industry.
No, the food pyramid all the way down. What are we
Hey,
even
did you
doing?
get your pink ribbon? You know what I mean? It's like,
and then people's deficiencies, right? We should be. You have to pay for that.
Yeah.
Our healthcare system should be finding out what people's deficiencies are and what you should
well,
and shouldn't
we
be
should
eating.
start with the food first.
Sure.
And we should start feeding people the right way with the right
genius of
nutrients,
that.
the whole foods and all that stuff. You'll see that, hey, the cancer industry doesn't exist. Hey, you want your cure? There it is. You know what I mean? Like feed people
It was all that
nutritionally.
It was all that simple.
I think it's that simple,
Well,
right?
we got complicated and we got caught up in bribing all the way through. People got profits. People got greedy. And here we are.
Here we are. And now cancer is an industry. You know, people are always raising money for fucking
Patient
cancer.
cured is a patient
Where's
lost.
all this fucking money going?
That's another subplot.
What are we even talking about? Everybody's raising money for cancer, and where is it going? Where are the results? Because more people are getting cancer, more people are dying from cancer.
Is immunotherapy a good thing?
And we're supposed to believe that it's just a natural phenomenon. Anyway, is this how we want to end the pod?
Not at all, man. We'll end it on a good note, man. We still got a little bit of time left, but how about that? We wrapped off like 55 minutes on a breeze, just chatting outside of a lecture hall, just shooting the breeze. So some segments, things coming up like that. We're still working on how it will all look. Timing wise, probably 45 minutes to an hour, like unless a guest is
Honestly,
because I don't really think we like, and this will be the last self-indulgent episode. It's the two of us chatting a bit about ourselves so you get to know us, but everything moving forward will be about the subplot, be about the topic. It'll be researched. The guests will take center stage. And then from there, you don't like, we'll just kind of just be conduits that'll pass the subplot on, keep the ball bouncing. The music will play on till the next episode and so on and so forth. Monthly, quasi-monthly. I mean, we'll see how quickly, because we got lives as well, and that's the subplot. Sorry to interrupt, is we actually have lives that get in the way of trying to do this. So even organizing this, and I apologize with coming soon, the hashtag, because it's one of those things, right?
But
like people,
why
don't you just whip one up? It's like, well, you know, lives get in the way, jobs get in the way, all kinds of stuff get in the way from actually putting something down. You want to create something that's actually good as well. Like rushing something, that would just suck. What would be the point of that?
I think this is just going to be more interesting as we move along because I'm not in the position to tell people what to do. I think it's really cool to like bring out little, like I think we've talked about 10 different things here and people can just go and read about stuff that we brought up. You can fact check us if you want.
Please fact check us.
Actually,
we love it.
Always fact check
love
us.
a good fact check.
I'll pull numbers out of my ass if I have to.
Trust the science, bro.
You know what I mean? Trust the science. But I just think like that's what's interesting is like I don't want to talk at people because I think that's just really stupid.
I like that too, what you brought up, and it's a great point to actually have both sides.
And
if somebody wants to go to bat.
I'm my own person. You're your own person. Like I'm gonna respect what you have to say. I'm not. There's a lot of things we don't agree with. Obviously, there's a ton of stuff we agree with. That's why this works. But it's all about letting people go, oh, I didn't know that. Or that sounds dumb, but let me check it out. Oh, these guys actually brought up something that's interesting. Maybe they go down their own rabbit hole and then subplots upon subplots.
Free thinking, doing your own research.
And
I can't stress that enough.
That's all it is.
You'd be surprised how far the subplots go, right?
Yeah.
You find you get those goosebumps, and next thing you know, you want to have the discussion with someone. And it's usually with a closer friend, or even I've had some with family members that look at me like,
yeah,
what planet are you on with this? When even with the vaccine, it's like I'm not like just let's take a look at this. This seems very risky to take for something that offers little to no protection, but yet we're still doing this.
Yeah, and honestly, like. The thing that I like about what this show can become is, the connection from one show and starting where it left off with another guest, which, whatever topic it is. And then you just let that thread go. And I believe that's what will make it interesting. And then the way we chop it up as well, right? So we've got a great producer in the background there, Graham, who's a stud. 3-camera setup, all that stuff.
Shout out, G.
So I'm looking forward to, working with you.
100%.
Working with Graham, if that's the way we decide to go, you know what I mean? So I think there's for me, this is just a nice outlet.
Yes.
You know, and I want to get to know people better.
Right.
You know, get to know how people think and not judge them for how they think or what they believe in. And also be called out on our own shit.
100% call me out, right? We'll have some fun as well. There'll be apps that won't be as serious. You know, maybe on the food side of things, right? We can, we'll
the food stuff will be serious.
We'll be serious, but we can also do a cooking app, right? The travel app can be fun as well. I mean, there's all kinds of little like subplot shorts we want to do. So we'll pack all that in. We got socials going. The Twitter handle, we'll throw all that in. The Instagram I've been working on a bit. Go ahead.
And music for the people.
Music for the People's a subplot too. Yeah, we got something we want to bring everybody in on. Contributing songs from all over the world will help build a playlist and just keep that going.
Which we've been doing
until our dying breath. We're 16
months
episodes in now.
Pretty much. Well, 18 months?
Way longer than that, I think.
Is it longer than that?
Yeah, it might be. It's quasi-monthly.
Anyway.
So we're on our own schedule with that.
It's good doing business
Luciano,
with you.
good to be back for sure. Check us out. Look for the first app will come soon. This was a production meeting. Shout out to G once again, producing behind the scenes. Good to be back. Is it time to press that button?
Press that button.
Press that button. We'll see you next time.
Beep.